I have fun at work. We're feeding the people that live in our communities, and that became super relevant and apparent during COVID when grocery store workers were getting thanks, like thank you for what you do. So it's our job to kind of remember that and center ourselves back to like we need to source good food for the people that live in our communities. They're relying on us, and not just food, but good food, wholesome food, food that they're looking for. That's the fun part of my job.
Welcome to Fresh Take with IDDBA, your source for essential insights, trends, and professional growth in the dairy, deli, and bakery industries. This is Kat Shanahan, Vice President of Marketing and Membership with IDDBA. If you're looking for the What's in Store podcast, don't go anywhere. You are in the right place. We've just expanded. Fresh Take with IDDBA will bring you 4 reoccurring series. You'll still find favorites like What's in Store and Executive Aisle, and we're adding Inside IDDBA for everything you need to know about our annual show, plus today's segment, Test Kitchen. Test Kitchen is all about actionable professional training and skill development, and we have a very special treat for you today. Both of today's guests participated in the 2025 IDDBA Leadership Program. I'm thrilled to welcome IDDBA Education Coordinator Ellen Coatney and Meat and Seafood Category Manager for Lunds and Byerlys, Steve Asp. Welcome, Ellen and Steve.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Well, Steve, I'd love to get started with you. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your career path, specifically focusing on what led you to your current category manager role in the meat and seafood space.
Sure. So the grocery or food industry has been around me since my first memories. Both my parents worked in the grocery industry. My mother was a deli manager for Lunds and Byerlys, retired. My father was a produce manager for Lunds and Byerlys, also retired. So between them, they had like 80 years of grocery experience between them.
Wow.
I took my first job when I was 15 as a bag boy at Lunds and Byerlys, and I am now 47, and I've been in and around the food/grocery industry ever since then. I have 25 years of service with Lunds and Byerlys. I stepped away from Lunds and Byerlys in 2012 and worked for Super Value, which is now UNFI, doing wholesale meat sales, and I had the title of category merchandiser. But I learned a lot about kind of logistics, negotiations, pricing, just kind of it's basically like being a manager at store level, just on a bigger scale. So instead of managing a cooler at a grocery store, you're managing a warehouse. So instead of, a pallet of something, you're dealing with truckloads of things. So it just opened my experiences just to different things, different way of looking at things within the grocery industry. And then after my kind of 3-year stint there, opening became available at Lunds and Byerlys for meat and seafood category specialist. So I went back to the company that I started with and have been there for the last 9 years as a category specialist, and then as a category manager. About 2 years ago, I took on that role. So.
Wow. So your parents have a long history there. You've got quite a history. You left, you came back. Without giving away the secret sauce, what is it that brings you back? What's created that longevity? That is a significant accomplishment.
Couple of things. One, familiarity with the company and the industry. I have fun at work. We're feeding the people that live in our communities, and that became super relevant and apparent during COVID when grocery store workers were getting thanks, like thank you for what you do. So it's our job to kind of remember that and center ourselves back to like we need to source good food for the people that live in our communities. They're relying on us, and not just food, but good food, wholesome food that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So that's the fun part of my job.
Fun and the impact. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the fun workplace is something you have in common with Ellen. I know Ellen's journey is a little bit different coming to IDDBA, but as an education coordinator at IDDBA, how did you get here? What aspects of your professional journey have led you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I started my career in food as a pastry chef, actually. I left a career in software to go to pastry school, which everyone told me is a terrible decision, but I did it anyway because I was passionate about it and it was something that I felt like I needed to do. And so I was a pastry chef for 7 years. And I worked, in restaurants. I did event spaces, bakeries, just kind of, in a lot of different places in the food industry. And then I got to a point where I loved being in the kitchen, but it didn't always love me back. It's very physically demanding. And so I decided to try to find some ways to stay in the food industry that were just a little bit less physically demanding. And so I moved into sales. I was in restaurant equipment sales for a couple of years and then kind of stumbled into the IDDBA. I had not heard of it, which is so common. We hear that all the time. And now that I work here, I see it everywhere and I see our impact everywhere. But yeah, I'm an education coordinator here. So I oversee several of our educational programs that we do. I specifically am tied to the bakery side of things, but then I also oversee the leadership program, which we'll talk about, and a few other programs as well.
I feel like that blend is just absolutely perfect for the work that you're doing now. A little bit of software, a little bit of pastry, some business side of it. And so that, I think, makes the UW Leadership Program or the IDDBA Leadership Program that we're going to talk about so much more impactful because you are bringing that industry experience along with a variety of other skill sets.
Sure. At the time, it felt very winding. And then looking back now, it's like, oh, this actually makes total sense now.
Yeah. And we're so glad because that's kind of what has helped shape the IDDBA Leadership Academy. So, Ellen, before we get too far into the takeaways and the experience there, can you give us just a short overview of what that program is?
Sure. Yeah. So once a year, we partner with UW School of Business Center for Professional and Executive Development to put on a 3-day in-person leadership course. This typically is in the fall, but it does move around a little bit every year. And we welcome people in the industry, both from our members and from non-member companies are also welcome to attend, but people who are in that kind of food, grocery, perimeter grocery space. We come together, we cover some really interesting topics. The classes vary a little bit year to year, but they're all topics that are really important for people who are either kind of new managers, like new in their management journey, or they just want to kind of brush up and kind of get excited about that management role again. It is super interactive. It's definitely not a lecture hall experience. So you get a lot of opportunities to interact, to network, and this was my first year running it, and I also got to participate in it as well. So I did kind of double duty this year, but it was really fascinating to be able to sit through it as a student and just see the expertise that these instructors bring. It was just so incredible.
I've sat through that program and similar programs, and I will say that participating is a very different experience than sitting safely in the back of the room where you don't have to participate in negotiations for 8 hours. That it is a different experience.
Because it's very interactive.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would imagine you wouldn't get nearly as much out of it just kind of sitting in the back, right? You have to kind of be in the thick of it to really get the most out of it.
And Steve, you were in the thick of it. So what was that experience like for you?
The way I learn is through that hands-on, and I don't think I'm alone in that arena, but the activities, kind of the small little workshops that you either paired with or teamed with somebody, the one that comes to mind is the gas station game. Mm-hmm. And Ellen, you were on my team for that and came up with our name. And, when I first met you, I'm like, well, she's kind of quiet, kind of reserved. And you came out just cutthroat. Like that was.
I was a little bit of a shark in the gas station game.
It was awesome.
So for those of you who have not had the joy of participating in this gas station game, essentially what you have to do is you're paired against a competing gas station, and you have to decide: are you going to try to cut prices to steal business, or are you going to try to stay and get a higher margin? And so it's I've watched that game several times, and every single time it gets spicy.
Yeah, at the beginning, that was in our negotiation class. And at the beginning of class, the instructor had given us a piece of advice, and she was like, maybe try something different, right? Because you're in class, you're not really at your job, right? There's not really any stakes here. So if you're normally a more reserved, quiet person, like maybe today you try being a little bit more aggressive and see how that feels. If normally you come in hard and you're really aggressive, maybe today you try a softer approach and see how it feels. And so I definitely took that advice to heart. And I was like, okay, I'm not normally this aggressive in business, in negotiations, but today is a safe space, so let's try it. And so it was kind of fun, right, to do something. It was a little uncomfortable, but it was also kind of fun to try on a different kind of persona. And I mean, I think my learning from that is like, I still would not be that aggressive in real life. But I also learned like I can push myself a little bit, right, to be a little bit more assertive, which is something that I know that I've struggled with in the past. And so I thought it was really useful to be able to pretend I'm a shark for a little bit.
You were assertive, but it wasn't anything like, oh my gosh, she's being mean. It was just not like the normal. I mean, I had just met you right that day, and I think others in the room had just met you and kind of formed those same opinions like, oh, she's going to be quiet. She's reserved. She's sitting back. And I think it caught some of the competing gas stations off guard too. So it was a win for you and our team. So.
Yeah. I mean, I had fun. I don't know if my competitors had fun, but I had a great time.
Steve, did you take a similar approach? Did you have that kind of internal debate about, do I go in as authentic Steve? Am I going to be shark Steve?
I do not like to take advantage of people within the negotiation space. I'd like to be fair, equitable for everybody involved. So, when we're done with a negotiation, both parties can walk away feeling satisfied that they both won. But I did learn it's okay to ask for more. The worst they can say is no. So shoot a little bit higher than what you might normally feel comfortable with. And you don't know what the other party's comfort level is with anything. And I found that out with the negotiation on I think it was a missing piece of china for a set that we had. And I thought I just, bent the guy over the barrel and took a bunch of money from him when I could have gone even higher. So that's one big thing I learned is go for more, ask for more within reason, right? You don't want somebody to walk away from a negotiation because you're way out of line. But it's okay to ask for a little bit more.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had from a program like that is what you think is fair is not necessarily what somebody else thinks is fair. And so going in with an assumption of, oh, this is, for me, this is really high price. So for them, it's going to be really high price. That's not always the case. And I think sometimes we give away a lot of our power, our negotiation power, when we assume that what's important to us or our perspective is the same as the other person.
Right.
One part of that class that I really enjoyed is the instructor had us do personal assessments. So it was a little bit like a personality quiz, right? You kind of went through these different scenarios, and then you were assigned kind of like a persona that fit how you had responded. And so she was able to give really specific like advice depending on that persona. So I remember, like the group Steve was in, for example, that's like a common pitfall for them is they don't ask for more. And so she was able to give really specific advice of like how you typically have handled negotiations. This is something you can take away from this class and kind of watch yourself. And so she was able to do that for everyone in the class, which I thought was really like immediately actionable.
I know that sometimes leadership assessments can get a little bit of a bad reputation in terms of, oh, I took this assessment, it doesn't feel like me. Or, you also have the flip side of that where you take an assessment and it does feel like you. So I'd be interested to hear from both of you if that type of an assessment that gets at like, what is your natural negotiation style? If you felt like you saw yourself in that or if you didn't.
I felt like this was the first time I had taken one that was this specific because I've taken like StrengthsFinder, I've taken Myers-Briggs, right? And those are kind of more, they touch on a little bit more generally how you approach life, how you approach your career. And I mean, those have been fine, but it just has felt kind of like broad to me. Whereas this was such a specific skill that I thought it was really useful just in the specificity of it, where it's like, oh, I've never actually thought about like how I negotiate, right? Like I've never really given it that much thought because it's just such a specific niche thing. And so to see that specifically kind of laid out, I thought was really useful. I don't know. What did you think, Steve?
No, I agree with your assessment. Yeah, I've done the Myers-Briggs as well. It matched what I felt were my kind of my persona, my strengths, my weaknesses for, just business in general, negotiations. But I learned that, kind of being more of an influencer within negotiations, being prepared, kind of having a backup plan. These are all things that I guess I've thought of in the past, but I realize were important and critical to being successful within business. Yeah, being flexible, having knowledge about what you're negotiating or talking about, being prepared, and then ultimately building a partnership. And that's kind of a cliche within, business and negotiations, but having a partnership, a trusting partnership. And it's as simple as just a follow-up to a conversation. Always follow up, always communicate, always be there so they know that you're not just talking and negotiating and it's done and you're gone, never to be heard from again, but continue those kind of lasting conversations will lead to true partnerships. That was one thing that really stuck with me in some of the conversations that we had.
That's a great point. And I know that we've spent a lot of time so far talking about negotiating, which is one of the days of the program. But the program also touches on some innovation, a little bit of strategy, some inclusive leadership. Are there other key takeaways that both of you had from the program for those other days?
Yeah, on the innovation side, because within my industry, the kind of the meat and seafood, it's hard to recreate the meat wheel, right? There's only a certain amount of animals that we have that we consume as human beings. It's hard to innovate like a steak, right? Like there's steaks and that's it. There's different marinade seasonings, but the innovation, kind of the ideation, it's as simple as get a marker board or a big sheet of paper and just start throwing ideas out there, even the dumb ones, even the ones that you think you're going to get made fun of for thinking of. Sometimes those will resonate maybe with somebody else, and then you can parse out that idea and it becomes that next innovation idea. And it's kind of like brain mapping, I guess, where you just throw out all your ideas and then you zero in on the ones that resonate with the rest of the group. And again, it could be what you would consider a dumb or funny idea that really doesn't make any sense, but you thought of it, throw it out there. And, you go through it, you reassess everything, and you identify maybe that one big item that's your next point of differentiation within your company. So it's, I think it was Adam that led the innovation. I really like the way he articulated and taught the class. It was easy to absorb and understand.
Mm-hmm. I think that's my whole role in brainstorming, is to throw out the dumb ideas.
Yeah.
So if you ever need somebody at your table that just comes up with dumb ideas, you just give me a call and I will be there. No problem.
Yeah.
What about you, Ellen?
Yeah, I think I go back to the class we took on influencing without direct authority quite a bit. I think that was a really interesting conversation. One of the things that instructor talked about was recognizing that not everyone sees things the way you do, which should be like a really obvious conclusion, right? But the way she kind of talked about it is like, you have to get really good at, it's not about getting really good at persuading. It's about getting really good at recognizing how the person you're talking to wants to be persuaded, right? So some people are numbers people and they want to see the data. Some people are really kind of more high level, big picture. They want to feel like they're ahead of the curve. Some people, make decisions more with that kind of like emotional side. They want an idea that's going to be really exciting to them. And so I think that was kind of mind blowing to me, is like, Oh, okay. I can convince you of an idea in a way that I think is convincing. But if that's not the way you communicate or that's not the way you think about these kind of ideas, then it's not going to get me very far. Even if all my data is perfect and, all of this stuff is in line, I have to get really good at figuring out like how does Kat want to be like introduced to this idea, right? So I thought that was kind of a mind-blowing discovery for me and something that I've thought about quite a bit since the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Understanding, again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the negotiation, like understanding and not assuming what's important to somebody else can go a really long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beyond some of the individual growth that you both experienced in the program, how do you see this type of a training benefiting the dairy, deli, and bakery industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think that something that we talk about quite a bit in the industry is turnover, right? We want people to come into the industry and to stay because, like in Steve's case, a lot of people, their first job is in this industry. And so we want them to stay. We want them to continue to grow within the industry as they, maybe go to college or get graduate degrees or whatever it is. As they continue their professional journey, we want to keep that talent here. And so I think a program like this is a good way to help companies to really kind of continue to cultivate that talent that they have and kind of bring them to the next level of their career, right? And bring them maybe more into a management position or just build their confidence or, give them kind of more of those soft skills, those people skills. So that's how I see this program fitting in. It's like, this is a great way to continue to like nurture that talent you already have within your organization because you do have a lot.
What about you, Steve? How have you seen, I know you participated in the program. How does this impact kind of your workplace and where do you see this fitting?
Well, for me, I mean, with my history, I started at a young age within the food grocery industry. I never went to college, right? All of my knowledge and experience has been on the job and just learning from others. So this was just an opportunity to kind of open my eyes to a different experience to help me. And it was an honor to be able to attend University of Wisconsin. It ultimately, it helped me. It kind of re-energized and reinforced a lot of the things that maybe I already knew and helped me polish some of the skills that I already had or just gave me better experience to approach business as a whole. And it, like I said, it re-energized me and reinforced that I do know what I'm doing. It just gave me some different ideas from a business perspective. And I appreciate the opportunity being able to attend all these, great programs within IDDBA. I recommended it to our vice president of EX, employee experience, basically HR. And I said, for some of our kind of mid-level category managers like myself, there's 9 or 10 of them within our company. I recommended it to him that we should send more folks to this. It was a great opportunity.
I'm so glad you feel that way, Steve. And I know that I'm still remembering things from classes that I took 5-6 years ago that my organization sent me to, and I'm still thinking about. I think some of it is negotiation, some of it is the influencing without direct authority. I mean, they stick with you for years and years and years.
It's going to make the company more successful. So that investment, that monetary investment to send somebody away for 3 days and put them up in a hotel or buy a flight and so they can attend this, it will pay for itself over time. So that's just one thing that I really wanted to reinforce, that it's yes, and it's investment with time and money, but it'll pay dividends down the road. But yeah, there is opportunities out there. It's just trying to identify the right folks or entities that can help you if it is a financial burden. But IDDBA was gracious enough to help me out with a small portion of it. But it even if I was willing to pay for it out of pocket myself, that's how much I wanted to attend, just because I think the benefit for where I'm at in my career with, I guess I'm like mid-level management, right? But I still have aspirations to progress in my career, get to more of a director level. And I think this is a nice, not a stepping stone, but just, it's going to assist me to get to that point when I'm ready, when the time comes for me. That's why was the big reason I wanted to attend this.
It sounds like you've put a lot of thought into how you're growing your career, the types of development that you're looking for. What were some of the things that were important to you when selecting what your next professional development opportunity was going to be?
One that was kind of accredited with a university, right? There is a lot of professional development kind of certificates and things like that are out there. This one I thought just carried a little bit more weight to it. In researching before I decided to apply and attend, just the things that were listed in the outline of topics and the way the days were laid out, it resonated with me, that I could capture and learn a lot from attending. That was the main reason that I wanted to attend. And I know a lot of the folks that attended the same time I did, they came from Detroit, from California, from Ohio, New Jersey, so other folks also saw the benefits of attending this, either themselves or maybe their company saw the benefit and said, hey, you know what? I think you should go, you should attend this. It's going to benefit both the company and you personally and professionally.
So my next question is for both of you. You've both done a lot of professional development. You've had very exciting and successful careers. If you could give yourself some advice, Steve, for you, the day that you started as a bagger, I think you said, at Lunds and Byerlys, and Alan, I don't know if software development was your first job, but let's just go back to your first job. What is the advice that you would give your younger selves that you wish you knew?
So I can start. So I was a technical writer at the software company, and I had studied writing, like professional writing, in college. And I really had, like, when I graduated college, I really had a really clear idea in my head of like who I was and what I was good at. And I think that, that comes from all growing up, right? Having my English teachers compliment me on my writing, and I always got really good grades in my right. So I kind of came out of college and was like, okay, like this is who I am. I'm a communicator. I'm a writer. And I think what I've kind of learned along the way is that, like, yes, that is true. I think I do consider myself a fairly good communicator and writer, but I can also be other things. And I'm also not limited by what I'm currently good at. I can learn to be good at other things. And that was really empowering for me, I think, coming from definitely having kind of a personality of like, I always have to be like kind of a perfectionist, right?
Yeah.
That kind of like, I don't know, like gifted student mentality, right? Where it's like, if I'm not already good at this, then I'm a failure. So I have to stick to what I'm already good at. So I think something I've learned definitely in the food industry is that just to be more open, right? Like you can be bad at something for a while as you learn how to do it, and that's okay. And that's how you get better at things. That's how you develop new skills. So that would probably be my biggest advice for my younger self, is just to like keep an open mind and think about like, where do I want to go? What do I want to learn? And let that kind of guide you, as opposed to like, well, what can I already do well? Because that's really limiting, especially, when you're like 22.
Well, and I think it goes back to what you were saying about, the shark version of Ellen, where you consciously made a decision that today I'm going to be somebody that's not dramatically different. I mean, I was in the room when we were doing this. You weren't knocking over chairs and bullying people, right? But, to say I'm going to be 10%, 15% more assertive. I have this idea. I'm not sure how it's going to work. But as you said, this is a safe space and I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to be any good at being a shark, but I'll never know if I don't try.
Exactly.
You were good. I think we got second place out of the 5 teams, so I thought you were pretty darn good.
Well, that was not all me, but
You were on that team too, Steve.
I was. I sat back and watched, and yeah, it was fun to watch because yeah, it was just cool to see the reactions of the other team when we kind of kept holding and holding and holding,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at kind of the scoreboard. Hey, we're making $400 this week, another $400, another, so yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of
Good.
fun.
Good. What advice would you give to your younger self?
To always have faith that you can do more. Don't think you've hit your high mark. Again, I started when I was 15, and it was, in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm working at a grocery store. It's not, what's special about that? I'm just kind of a normal person. Always go and try and achieve that next level, that next promotion, that next raise, that next whatever it is. Don't be scared to take that step to reach for something higher and more important, more impactful. And if you try and maybe fail, don't give up. Try again. But yeah, and take pride in what you do as well. I think that's really important. It's just going to help you, I think, do a better job in general. But just always reach for that next thing, even if it's with the same company or in the same industry. There's the food industry is big, but it's also very small, tight-knit community across all aspects of the food industry, not just the actual food, but the machinery that makes it, the trucking that delivers it, it's all kind of interconnected. So also don't badmouth a company ever. That's another thing that I've learned. I've seen that happen where there's somebody on the other side of the country in a totally different industry that somebody said something, it'll come back and get you. That's another thing that I'll tell myself. Always be professional.
Yeah.
Because again, it's big industry, but it's also very small and tight knit.
Yeah. So, Ellen, as we think about how we develop, as we think about reaching the next step and advancing our career, what other opportunities are there specifically from IDDBA?
Yeah, so in 2026, we are actually going to be offering some scholarship opportunities for our retail members. So, obviously, sometimes it can be a big investment. We believe it's a very important investment to invest in your employees in this way. But for some companies, they just might not be able to swing it next year. So we will have some scholarship opportunities available. And more information on that will be in our website. So we will have our leadership program that Steve and I have been talking about. It will be September 15th through the 17th here in Madison, Wisconsin. Registration will open in January or February. We're still nailing down some details. We will cover negotiating again. That's always a really popular topic. We'll also cover influencing without direct authority, leading diverse workforces, and more. We're going to mix in some new classes this year. And like I said, this is perfect for new managers, new leaders, or people who are aspiring to that role. If you're not a manager yet within your organization, that's okay. You can still definitely come. We will also, for the first time, be offering a virtual leadership option. So this spring, starting April 7th, we are partnering with Dale Carnegie to offer a leadership excellence course with them. This course will meet virtually once a week for 6 weeks. And it's going to cover a lot of those soft skills that help you to be a good leader. So accountability, strong communication, time management, clear delegation, and more. You can actually sign up for that today. It's already up on our website. So please look into that if you are interested. And then I wanted to also take a moment to call out, Steve had mentioned that he got a partial reimbursement for the leadership course. And so that is something that is available to all of our members, both retail and non-retail. We offer the Professional Development Scholarship. So we will reimburse up to $500 per course and $1,000 annually. So you can visit our website to learn more about that as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ellen. And a huge thank you to both you, Ellen, and Steve for sharing your experiences from the IDDBA Leadership Program. It's clear that professional development offers tremendous value for both individual growth and for moving our industries forward. If you want to learn more about the IDDBA Leadership Program, the Dale Carnegie Program, or other ways that you can build your skill set, head over to iddba.org. Remember, Fresh Take with IDDBA drops 2 episodes a month on the first and third Tuesdays. Our next episode will feature What's in Store with host and Vice President of Education and Industry Relations, Heather Prock, bringing you the latest market trends you need to know. To ensure you don't miss out on that, hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fresh Take with IDDBA.